All right, 11 o'clock a.m., 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Pro Football Doc podcast, Sports Injury Central podcast. A lot of things going on. Week 14 almost wrapped up. Week 15, lots to talk about here. We'll take questions, field questions. Doug is here in the room as well as Taylor. Let's kind of get started as people roll in.
We're already getting questions already, so I'll go through this. Just a couple topics we had before. Tell me your thoughts. We had a question in the room. We're going into week 15, like you said, Doc. Teams are beginning to be out of it, and they're starting to see a little bit more IRs. People ruled out that maybe didn't look like they look like their trajectory maybe to play. What is your approach when you were a doctor with the Chargers? Like, how did you approach if your team was kind of trailing off at the end of the season and not playing well from a medical standpoint?
Well, return to play is multifactorial. There's a lot of decisions. And I've said many times the three major deciders are the player, medical, and the team. The player could be the player himself, the wife, the dad, the agent, the contractual situation, the incentives, the you name it. Medical can be the team doctor, the athletic trainer, the surgeon that did a surgery or the physical therapist or functionally, and the team. The team could be the owner. Daniel Jones, we're not playing him anymore this season. Okay, let's waive him. Let's release him. We don't want an injury guarantee. It could be the coach. Let me look at who's there. It could be the position guy who's there. So it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. Let me tell you something. On the same week, Dallas Goedert and CMC had a very similar injury. Dallas Goedert, left knee PCL. CMC, right knee PCL. What do we hear out of San Francisco? Immediately IR, essentially done for the season. What do we hear out of Philadelphia? No word, no practice, no word, late conversion to IR on Saturday.
We haven't even seen a PCL, like the injury yet.
They haven't said it.
Yeah, they haven't said it.
Right. Howie Roseman plays it close to the vest. He hasn't said it yet. But I'm telling you, that's what it is. Similar to what Dalton Kincaid had. But the same week, CMC and Dallas Goedert, you hear no word about Dallas Goedert's season being over. You hear word about CMC's season. Yeah. It's where they are. Now, if the 49ers stay alive in 4 weeks and week 18 is meaningful, you may hear the chatter, et cetera.
We'll talk about Derek Carr later, Doc. I didn't interrupt. I'll talk about Derek Carr later, but he's kind of a weird one because, like, they're not really out of it, but, like, that's an injury that might potentially be.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But, like, it's so individual. Let's look at Jacksonville. Jacksonville put Trevor Lawrence on IR, not for his head, for his shoulder. They don't really want to play him, not because they're owed an injury guarantee, but they're wed. Why get him hurt and then cost him an offseason with likely a new coach? Why get him hurt and he's not ready for next season? Oh, you want to take care of your left shoulder surgery? Whether you need it or not is a different question, but go ahead. Now is a good time.
The concussion helps open that door a little bit.
Well, I think the concussion he'd actually be fine from, but the concussion gives him the scare that do you want to put him back in and get what would be his third concussion and have him be to a situation all next season, one hit and he's out for a bunch?
You don't want that.
You don't want that. Yeah. So this whole shutdown thing, it really depends. I mean, as a player, some players I know, like, do not shut me down. Some players are like, I know players that I want to practice. I want to practice every practice.
They want to play through the whole season regardless.
A lot of pride. And some are like, you know what? Give me the vet rests on my knees and and the shutdowns are the same. And the motivations are different among players. And, certainly there's once a team is eliminated, there's sort of a thought of, this is not good. But then at some point you start to play for pride, for film, and for next year. And you remember, most NFL contracts are not like Trevor Lawrence, which is relatively guaranteed.
Right. They're playing for
their next, could be playing for something.
Right.
So it's too broad a stroke to say why isn't this guy shut down? Why this guy shut down? It's no different than why do some athletes take an injection to return to play and some athletes decide it's not in my best interest to do so.
Mhm.
Very individual discussion. And I think that's the key as a team position, that I would have the individual discussion with a player.
There also comes to play too, Doc. I think that like the teams that were potentially supposed to win a lot of games and then they're not. So like the Jets, maybe they were 9.5 win total. They're going to kind of die down, but maybe a Carolina Panthers team that knew they were going to be a 3.5, 4.5 win team, they're not going to die down because they're going to continue. Right?
Well,
it's not as binary as that.
I look at it as more, what's the vibe in the room? Like, okay, New Orleans gets a interim head coach bump. But does it really last? And look, if you're eliminated, you get a doldrums. But then you say, well, there's still football and we're still playing, and then we're playing for next year. And you can argue Carolina's playing well.
Right.
Bryce Young is playing well. I think they're over their disappointment. They're playing. Look, the Cleveland Browns are out of it. But you know what? They play the Chiefs this week. They got up for that game, that snow game against division rival Pittsburgh on Thursday night.
This is at home in Cleveland. This is their kind of game of the year in a way. Yeah, for now.
This is, if Cleveland has pride, which I think they do, this is their Super Bowl. We get to play the world champion Chiefs at home. I mean, this is what do they have left to play for? Nothing. They're out of the playoffs.
And that might be more impactful than what the Chiefs currently are playing for. They're a little locked at division. I don't know. It seems like that might be more stronger, right? You could argue.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Stefanski does a great job. He certainly has not lost the team. He's coming back next year. He's not getting fired.
Right.
And Jameis seems to have been a rallying point, although they certainly lost to Pittsburgh like we thought they would. Pittsburgh held a grudge from 2 weeks ago, et cetera. So I think it depends. It's very individual.
All right, next topic I just want to talk through, Doc. Tell me your thoughts on Carson Beck. There's a big injury that happened in the college football, the bowl games, championship games. It just reminiscent because they got into the playoffs. It just reminds me of the Florida State issue. Remember you documented the Jordan Travis injury from last year, the quarterback. They didn't get into the playoffs. Now it went from 4 to 12, obviously, so Georgia sneaked in. But what are your thoughts on his health? Because that potentially they might have to rock a backup quarterback in that game.
Georgia's like got a bye, right?
They have like a week and a half. Yeah.
But we got 3 weeks until they play, right? 2 weeks. Georgia has a bye.
You're right. Yeah. I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, Georgia.
I think
not 100%. Yeah, but tell me about the Carson Beck injury before I get this. Yeah.
Okay, so I will admit I don't follow college football as fervently as NFL. I was dropping my son and daughter off at a friend's house. They were going to a birthday party, and the dad is a fervent Texas fan. Went to Texas, UT, hook 'em horns, has a Texas flag in his front yard, glued to the TV set, and he wasn't going to leave. Went to a Texas game even a week or two ago. He wasn't going to leave, even though it was one son's birthday party dinner until this game was done. As it in overtime.
It's a big
His
game.
wife left with some of the kids, and he was bringing other kids, but he wasn't leaving. And let me tell you, when the helmet popped off on the backup quarterback,
Gunnar Stockton, yeah.
Ulnar collateral ligament is the worry for Carson Beck, similar to Brock Purdy. I mean, I don't usually yell at the TV set, but I was like, when Carson Beck came in, I was like, run blitz the house.
Came in with his arm hanging off.
He is not going to throw the ball. Remember when Brock Purdy came in against the Eagles when they had to in the NFC Championship game? It was 3rd and 18 and he didn't throw the ball. I mean, it was, he was not throwing the ball. Same with Carson Beck here. Of course, they score a 5-yard touchdown and Georgia wins the game. But I was like, run blitz, please. There's no way this kid's going to throw the ball. But in any case, I think they're kind of a 1A, 1B, so it's going to be the other kid for Georgia.
It seems like I was seeing trending a little worried. They're worried about him. It's a Sugar Bowl. You're right. They have a week bye, and they have the January 1st game. They play the winner of the Notre Dame Indiana game. So January 1st would be the next time he could play. But there's already chatter that he potentially can't play, and that kind of fits with what you're saying, right?
Well, I mean, there's no rush if he were to need ulnar collateral ligament repair surgery like Brock Purdy. I mean, he can be serviceable handing the ball off and doing some things.
Yeah.
I mean, he came back into the game to do that. But yeah, I think you have to count on no Carson Beck for Georgia.
Okay. And then just another college, not injury relations. There's a lot of chatter of Bill Belichick and UNC. I need you to tell me your thoughts on that. Also, like, it seems like it's not like a Nick Saban. He's not his opportunities aren't dead in NFL. So why would he look at a college job?
Well, I mean, I do know Coach Belichick, and here's the thing: the man wants to coach, right? The question is, why does he want to coach?
Right.
And why would he take a North Carolina job? Maybe to set up his son, maybe because he just loves the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You have to admit his number one reason to coach, it's not money. His number one reason to coach is legacy. And his preferred is to become the all-time winningest NFL head coach.
Mm-hmm.
But he has indicated that no NFL teams reached out to him yet. There are 3 openings, so they're the only ones that can reach out. Like, you can conjecture all you want about Jacksonville
and Dallas and stuff, but they can't do anything.
It's kind of not appropriate to reach out when you still have a coach, maybe through intermediaries, or maybe there have been some whispers, but it's not official.
You can't be blatant about it, right?
Here's the thing for North Carolina. Certainly now we're talking about Bill Belichick. But here's the thing that's going to be interesting. It's a timing issue. North Carolina needs to know now because of the transfer portals.
Absolutely.
And NIL.
That's a key part. Yep.
They need to know now. And so either Belichick is going to need to say, I'm moving on and I'm going to try and prove my greatness by turning around a college program. I've already seen his talking points on McAfee. It's going to be NFL type program. We're going to have training rooms and medical and meals, and it
seems like he's got a plan. It seems like he's thought about it a lot.
He does have a plan. Of course, he's got a plan for anything, but he's also got a plan if he can land in Jacksonville. He's got a plan if he lands at the Giants. I think his preferred destination is the NFL because he wants that legacy. I mean, it's interesting. I get the ties to North Carolina.
Right. You saw the picture that Schefter posted of him when he was little.
Well, it was actually Pat McAfee that posted
Pat McAfee, yes. Schefter took it, yeah.
A black and white photo.
Yes, yep.
He's like 5 years old then?
Yep.
Black and white.
Under
photo,
8, yep.
While his dad was an assistant coach at Carolina. So there are some ties. I think it would be interesting, but I don't have a burner account. But if I did, my penchant would have been to retweet that picture and say, right here, even though he's 5, and I'm not hating on Coach Belichick. I'm just making an observation.
Right.
It's a black and white picture, but in that picture, Belichick is actually closer in age to his current girlfriend than he is today.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
If you do the math, right?
Yes.
It is what it is.
That is the math.
I'm not hating on it.
No,
I'm just making the observation.
You're making a factual statement
off black and white photo from the 1950s of Bill Belichick as a kid. He is closer in age in that picture to his current girlfriend.
Yes.
Who has tweeted on North Carolina, I guess, or Instagram, or Instaface, or whatever
he calls it,
etc.
But
I love on McAfee. I saw this. He was getting asked a lot of questions, and he said, "Well, I got to get my press conference aura back on." In other words, don't answer any questions.
Right.
He's got his media aura where he answers.
He's
a lot
talking
of
everywhere now.
His press conference is one word and no and move on. So he's clamming up a little bit, but I think it'd be interesting. I think he wants to coach in the NFL.
Yeah, just a stepping block, maybe. Yeah. I'll give you a scenario though. Is this like maybe a 1-year thing, brings in his son the second year, but he doesn't like the cycle now, like he's already seen it before, or he can't really make the decision. You don't know what's going to open up yet.
Well, I don't know how you can predict 2 years.
That's
from
what I was saying.
And then the relevancy and
seems hard. Yeah,
I think it's hard. I mean, I still think he goes to Jacksonville, but that's
your betting. Yeah,
I mean, Jacksonville is a landing spot. It was never going to be Chicago. Could be the Giants.
You don't like Dallas, right? You said.
I could see it happening, but it's not top on the list.
Yeah.
I'd put Miami ahead of Dallas, but that's a whole nother story.
He would love Miami, I think. All right, Doc, we'll jump into rundown. We got a decent list, a couple quarterbacks and a bunch of other players here. Let's talk with your favorite player ever, Derek Carr. Tell me about his hand injury that he suffered.
I mean, it's a legit injury. We said it in game, and now news is breaking. Pun not intended, but intended.
Intended.
Fractured hand. And the bone, based on the good video, looks to be the scaphoid bone. So it's technically in the hand, the base of the hand, but it connects to the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to call hand or wrist,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. Scaphoid fracture.
Non-throwing hand.
Non-throwing hand. Poor blood supply, likely to need surgery. And I've gotten asked the question already. It's his left hand. Who cares? Why can't he play quarterback? Well,
you have a lot of answers for this. You're like,
it's not Tom Brady tuck rule. Just wave the ball in the one hand. Look, you've got to take a shotgun snap. You got to come under center. You have to hand the ball off with your left hand, and you have to ball security.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a quarterback is not a one-handed job. He needs to play in a cast. Very difficult to play in a cast, even if it's your offhand. Therefore, I think his season is over. Although the Saints have a glimmer of hope still, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're now chasing Tampa, not Atlanta, but they're what, 3 back?
Let me see here and look at the stats. I was just going to get that for you.
2 back at least. I don't know what the tiebreakers
So you got Tampa
are.
Bay 7-6, Atlanta at 6-7, and you got 5-8 for New Orleans. No one has a tiebreaker, so it's open, like you said. Yes,
yeah. So Tampa's got to stumble.
Is that more like a fan base thing? They don't want to rule them out. Is that just something like they know behind the scenes that it's season ending and they're going to just play week to week stuff? Or
well, they don't need to make a decision unless for some reason they need the roster spot, and they don't need to make a decision until Saturday.
Right.
I mean, look at Dallas Goedert last week. We said PCL, he's not playing. They kept the possibility open, and on Saturday put him on IR.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to put him on
roster
IR
management
yet.
stuff. That's it. Yeah. Tell me what you saw. We didn't really get a definitive type of injury, but we have a little lean. Tell me your thought on what you saw in the Raiders, another Raiders quarterback or former Aidan O'Connell, and his knee injury. He was carted off with an air cast.
You said former Raider? Well, he's still a Raider.
Yeah. I mean, the other quarterback, former.
Gardner Minshew, broken collarbone. Now
Yep.
Aidan O'Connell, a patella injury. Is it a fracture or the tendon? Not sure. The way that he went down on it.
Just real quick, I know people air cast always mean fracture. You've always told me air cast doesn't always mean fracture, right? There's other reasons why you use
it's just stabilizing.
Yeah.
Air splint, whatever, vacuum splint. The irony is we call it an air cast, and there is a brand of splints called air cast, and technically what they put them on is not an air cast. I just use that word because it seems what media uses.
Right.
It's a vacuum splint, or and actually, believe it or not, it's actually it's an anti-air cast. The way the vacuum splints work is there's air in the splint. You suck the air out.
You can see the thing on
and
it.
then and then the beads get hard as you suck it out. So it's I guess we can call it an anti-air cast.
It's a vac seal kind of thing.
A vacuum splint,
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it, but whatever. Indicates there's some sort of instability. So, but I think it's Desmond Ridder the rest of the way.
That's for a Raiders fan. I'm not really happy, but we got to deal with that.
You should be happy.
Yeah. Well,
don't you want a better draft pick at this point?
Yeah, you know what? I do, but I was watching a video. There's Barstool. They have John Gruden now, and Portnoy said he saw Pierce in the tunnel, and Portnoy's a big Patriots fan, and he said that he told Portnoy they're both his team and his are gunning for the #1 seed. And I could see Gruden's face just lose all color, because Gruden would never. I don't think he would ever play like that. I don't think he seems like a coach that would tank. You know what I mean? So you just watch the video. It just seems like he's just so upset with hearing that news, because he was there earlier, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you hear the Shedeur Sanders and whatever.
Another quarterback. He came back into the game. What are your thoughts on Justin Herbert and his contusion he suffered?
Yeah, thigh contusion.
Hurts,
he's tough.
Yeah,
he's stiff. I mean, if he were a cornerback or running back, he would have been out of the game. But front leg quarterback, he's tough. He's in the game. He had a mild left eversion high ankle sprain early in the game. Then took an elbow to the thigh, tried to stay loose, stayed in the game. He'll be LP this week. He'll be sore this week. LP, or it could be a DMP a day or two, but He's a gamer. He's going to play.
I don't mean to go backwards. We had a question just on Twitter. I saw Derek Carr, the way he broke his hand, he jumped to get the first down. Is that something that you teach necessarily? He shouldn't have left his feet. I don't want to blame him for the injury. He's trying to get the first down, but I mean, there's chatter.
When you're Saquon Barkley and you make a backwards no look jump over someone and it's a highlight reel, that's really good. But the reality is, the majority of the time you leave your feet, what happens? You lose power. You become a sitting duck. You're in the air and you're at the whim of somebody else. That's kind of why they don't teach you to leave your feet like that,
right? Unless
you have to, or the last second, because you actually become quite vulnerable to injury.
So next one, Doc, we have a lot of questions, about 4 or 5 on the YouTube here. Tell me your thoughts. The running back situation for the Niners has been insane, right? They got Patrick Taylor there running last night. Isaac Guerendo, tell me your thoughts on his foot injury. They said MRI today.
Well, my first thought is you got to give it to the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. Just add water. Right. I mean,
that's all they're doing. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, forget next man up. Next man up.
Right.
Right. I mean,
no CMC,
Jordan Mason, Guerendo, they're all successful. And then now here comes Patrick Taylor.
Scored a touchdown last night.
So you got to give it to him. But the video wasn't clear because he was in a big pile. The x-rays were inconclusive, but that doesn't mean anything. A foot sprain, you don't expect the x-rays to show anything. Okay. You're looking at a ligament issue. Is it a Lisfranc? That's the number one. How severe is the question? But a running back makes his living up on his toes and cutting and running, and going to be hard.
They play Thursday. You confidently say he likely out Thursday.
Like the only question is he on IR or not?
Right.
And that's the only question.
He's out Thursday. Yeah.
It's the question is he on IR or not? Is the only question.
Second question we had on YouTube, a couple questions here about the same player. George Pickens, he missed a game. He suffered a last second practice hamstring injury. They released today that it's grade 2. Is your thoughts that he's going to miss in a couple weeks after the one he just did?
Well, grade 2, he's going to miss some time here. I mean, it's not impossible that he'd go on injured reserve.
He's got the Eagles this week, big game.
But he's not playing against the Eagles, the grade 2 hamstring. And Mike Tomlin's also sending the message, look, we've got other people and we'll be fine, but no George Pickens this week, at least, likely for a couple weeks.
I think you have a little theory too that they sometimes play better if he's not there, right? They did play. I thought they were going to really need him yesterday, but they did put a lot of points on the Browns. Next one I have, Doc, fantasy favorite that you were down on for the entire year. Talked about Jonathon Brooks and what you saw. They haven't released what happened to him, but you have significant worry.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, we've talked about fading him the whole fantasy season. Don't draft. Don't draft.
Yep.
And in terms of SIC picks for the futures, they never put up yards, but
4.5 touchdowns.
4.5 touchdowns. I think we're going to win that by 4. Worrisome. Same right knee, non-contact. I hope we don't get the dreaded bad news for Jonathon Brooks. Can't say that for sure on the video, but at this point in time, see you next season and hopefully ready for the off-season program. Hopefully it's not severe, but I can't say it's not unexpected, but it's, hopefully we get good news, but worrisome.
So second tear on that same knee, are you worried about his stats for his career, going forward, or is he just the same, another usual recovery, and he could be
I think he can have good results the second time around if it is the case, but then again, now you're starting the clock in December for next season.
And you're still,
right?
Like you said, you're going from rookie to, it's still a big jump from college. He hasn't made the jump really yet. Yeah.
It's delaying what he's got. And so, we'll see, but Chuba's sort of the guy still.
I want to talk about concussions specifically. Someone was asking about Cedric Tillman. He's DNP 2 straight weeks with his concussion. Is that something that as a fan you should be worried about, or is it you just need to treat it as, like you say, like a snowflake and just wait and see? Sorry.
Treat it like a snowflake.
I always just remember what just like
snowflake.
Every concussions are like snowflakes. You're not treating it like a snowflake. But he's just saying, is there worry that he hasn't practiced in 2 weeks from the concussion? You always say after 1 week there's.
I think you should worry about every single concussion, even if they are practicing early. But yes, our data and numbers have shown that if you've missed 2 weeks, look, most return in the first 2 weeks, either the first week or the second week.
Right.
But once you get beyond that second week and haven't returned, it usually becomes prolonged. And at this point, you'd have to worry about season, et cetera. Lingering symptoms are not good. See Austin Eckler. Symptoms that go away quickly are much better. That's Trevor Lawrence, right? But you also don't want multiple. So, yeah, worrisome. Yeah. Am I signaling career ending? No, I'm not saying that.
No.
But worrisome, yes. Worrisome for this week and the weeks beyond in this season, yes.
So every year, Doc, you do Scott Fish. We've had a good track record. This year, we kind of fell off. I don't want to blame anybody, CMC, but I did, I did help you learn about Bucky Irving. So we like to, when we draft, we like to find people that could potentially take a starting job, to find some value. I got that part right. Tell me, he's been a fantasy superstar this year, helping a lot of people. Tell me your thoughts on his back injury he suffered last week.
I don't see it as significant.
Came in the game with it as on the injury report.
Yeah, I don't see it as significant looking at video. But in terms of Scott Fishbowl, look, I got tired of, God rest his soul, I got tired of being Marty Schottenheimer. We were making the playoffs, getting buys, but we weren't winning.
Winning into playoffs, yep.
We won the league a couple of times, but I wasn't going anywhere in the playoffs. So I was like, okay, let's go boom or bust,
right?
And make these big picks.
Yeah.
And there's been some busts. So this last year, not so good. I mean, after a pretty good track record of drafting solidly. And the other thing is, you always talk to me, you do a lot of fantasy. You always ask me, where do you want to draft? And my answer is, I don't know. I don't have a draft strategy. I just see where the board is. And this year, I think I drafted third.
You're in the top half. Yep. Yeah.
And the bottom line is the guy that was glaring to me when it came time to draft, and this was Scott Fishbowl, is before training camp starts. So there was no
It's in July. It's in July. Yep.
Word of anything yet. CMC was the guy that stood out in a different,
because he was getting drafted number 1. So when you saw him at 3, you're like, there's something there.
If it was 3 or 4, but whatever it was, he was the glaring obvious choice. And obviously that didn't do so well. I feel like this year, like you say, every year you're like quarterback with this. We don't do running backs this year. I feel like you got Derrick Henry. We just missed out on your top selection, right? And then I think you had Aaron Rodgers too, which the first year I did it, people in the league were talking about, oh, he's got a 0 RB strategy. I was like, no, I
don't like anybody. Or you do.
Well, no, I was like, okay, we're gonna wait till the 6th round to get this RB. Oh, he got snagged. Okay, well, we can wait till the 7th round for this RB. Oh, he got snagged. But I still drafted a starting running back before the roster.
You make sure your starting lineup is done before that's
get the starting lineup done. But so
next year you did QB. Next year you did QB because you had Ryan Fitzpatrick. I remember, you waited till all the way to the end.
There was a 0 wide receiver year. I mean, I have no strategy, just whatever the board is.
The board, exactly. Yeah. Next one I have, Doc, is just a running back. Remember we talked about earlier in the podcast just about shutting down or not. What are your thoughts on Breece Hall? He played the week before. And then this week he missed. They released that it's an MCL type injury. Is this something he probably can't play through, or he played through and it got worse, or is this kind of a shutdown with the 3-10 record?
Obviously, we're not examining him, but there may be a little shutdown here. You got to understand, players always say don't mess with the moneymakers. Okay, the moneymaker for Breece Hall is knees.
Especially he's already hurt one already at the ACL tear, so he's super careful probably. Yeah.
So that's the moneymaker. I remember LT would play through anything, but he worried about his knees every time there was a knee issue.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, so I'm not trying to say it's an unjustified shutdown. I am saying that seems to be better safe than sorry there.
Okay.
So, yes.
Then you talked about Dallas Goedert already in his PCL. Talk about Dalton Kincaid. He's missed multiple weeks, 3 plus the bye. They have a huge matchup against the Lions this week, week 15. Is there any chance he can return this week for people in the fantasy playoffs that's starting this week?
Chance, yes. Reliability, no.
He's part of your team this year too, right?
He's getting close. Yeah. I love Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
Love him, but clearly, I think we were the first to say that was a PCL.
You've been the PCL magician this year. people will
I don't know.
say.
It
Right?
comes in waves.
Yes.
He's on track.
Mhm.
He'll be back this season. I think this week's a little early. Next week, week 16, yeah, I think he's ready.
So then they have two AC joint wide receivers. They're dealing with AC joint sprains. McConkey missed this week. It was maybe a little bit more than knee injury. And then Josh Downs missed the week before. They had a bye this week. Is there any thoughts on both of their availabilities this week? Josh Downs plays the Broncos, and then you have the Chargers playing the Bucks.
Well, I mean, Colts are in it. They're in a must-win. I think Josh Downs can come back this week. I think Ladd McConkey does. I mean, all week I was thinking Ladd McConkey would play through. So I obviously have to say
it was a little bit more knee than the AC joint sprain for McConkey, right?
Yeah, but I think they both can play through this week.
Malik Nabers, he had a decent game, but you saw on this is the second straight week on Friday that he's popped. He had a groin a couple weeks ago and then the hip. He's playing through. It's just a matter of you don't expect anything else or ineffective. It's just, or they're not going to shut him down. It's like he's a rookie. Should they want to play as many games with him as possible, or is there Giants they're in a free fall, right? So is there a reason why they didn't sit him? I guess
maybe because they didn't feel like it would get worse. There's different types of groins. There's groin muscle strains, and then there's groin / code word for core muscle.
Yes.
I think this is going to be a core muscle issue. This is why he's able to play through. I would not be surprised if he ends up with a core muscle surgery, athletic pubalgia surgery this offseason. The good news is recovery is pretty reliable and pretty straightforward. So no long-term worries about Malik Nabers, but that would be the suspicion there.
Last player I had on the list, Doc, tight end Will Dissly. It happened in the game last night. Tell me your thoughts. He's been a pretty good fantasy player. A lot of fantasy people that are in the playoffs this week are starting him or want to. Tell me your thoughts on his issue, shoulder.
Yeah, he did not return to the game, so we'll need more. And he got hit on the shoulder there.
Big hit in the middle from Justin Reed.
More contusion or AC, it remains to be seen, but he did not return. How about Justin Reed kicking off?
Yes, he's kicked extra points before. He has that. Yeah, you still have the best story when you had Wes Welker do the 3-for, right? So no one else can do that.
I mean, look, Taysom Hill obviously season ending, and then Josh Allen throwing, catching, running for touchdowns,
and then he gets 6 touchdowns the next game. He's on a roll.
He's on a roll, but I don't think anyone ever top my guy Wes Welker. Wes Welker was in San Diego for a little bit, coming out of Texas A&M, Texas Tech.
I believe Tech. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That kid caught everything, but we had the great Tim Dwight back then, so we couldn't have two of those slot receivers, and so he ended up going to Miami. But my favorite story is he literally caught a touchdown pass, kicked the extra point, kicked off,
and he made the tackle.
And went down and made the tackle.
Yep.
And of course, Junior Seau was on the Dolphins at the time, and Junior told me he nicknamed him Rudy, and it stuck.
There you go. All right, Doc, the rundown's done. I just want to make everybody know our SIC picks. We're still 6-1 on guaranteed picks. You already said last week, make sure they check the new site out. It's brand new look, brand new tools. And our NFL spreads are up 10 units still, very good. College basketball's up 18 units. Insights on all sports, Doc.
The best thing about the new site, besides it being very navigatable, your dashboard can be set for you. You can say, I want to follow the Chiefs and I want to follow the Broncos, or I don't want to follow whoever. Or you can put in your fantasy notifications, your favorite players, or notifications on certain players or those on your fantasy team. And you can get a customized dashboard / homepage. And whether you're just a fan or a DFS, there's a fantasy calculator, or a fantasy person, or a gambler, and the SIC scores and SIC the field views.
Yep.
There's just a lot on there, all related to injury information as the primary driver, and that's what differentiates us.
One last question, Doc, from YouTube. Someone said, could Deebo Samuel still be dealing with his pneumonia from late October? He hasn't really produced well since then. He hasn't had a big game. Maybe he will now that he has to be the running back again, maybe. But your thoughts on, is it possible that he's still having issues with breathing or his lungs?
I mean, I guess it's not impossible, but I would think that it's December now. He's got to be past that, right? I mean, Does the effects of a pneumonia last longer than effects of a gunshot wound? Ricky Pearsall? I mean,
same.
I mean,
Very funny. It's, yeah. Could work. All right, Doc, do you have a beast of the week for me? I know I don't have one.
you don't have one?
No. I do have information about Carr just released. Rizzy said Derek Carr is in concussion protocol and also dealing with this left hand injury that won't need surgery. Yeah, week to week.
Week to week. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, whatever.
Yes.
But no surgery means all the more the cast, which means he's out.
I like Gunnar Stockton. That was a big hit. Kind of led his team to win. He helped out, but
I mean, that looked like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, that little game. Right?
It was immediate back. Yeah. It's insane. Yeah.
Helmet just
and you watch the sideline. College is just different. No one even checked him on the sidelines. He was sitting next to the coach right after.
Oh, but they have a mandatory one play sit out.
Yeah. Oh, that helps.
Because your helmet came out.
Yeah.
Now, in theory, the one play sit out is so that you can get checked, but that's a whole different story.
And Rapport did say re-tear of the ACL for Brooks as well. Okay. Yes.
Unfortunate. We didn't want that to be the case.
Yes.
Now, to have your ACL be as strong as possible, it's 18 months. And, he was back. I don't know when he tore it in
November 2023.
So he was a little over a year, but not at 18 months. So a lot of bad luck there. That's too bad. My beast of the week, I gotta go off the board. I gotta go with Juan Soto. $765 million.
15 years. Yep.
I remember, if I remember this correctly, Glenn Davis, basketball player, was going to get with the Milwaukee Bucks, and he wanted to. This quote stands out in my mind. You can corroborate this for me. He said he wanted to be the first $200 million player. And the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks shot back in the press. Tell him if he gives me $200 million, he can have the team.
That's good.
And now you got a team giving Juan Soto $765 million. If you break it down, take a guess. Doug, you can guess too. How much per hour is that?
5,100 something. I saw someone do it.
Close to $6,000.
Yeah, I saw someone do that.
An hour, including when you sleep.
Yep.
So you can go to bed and wake up 50 grand richer, including when you sleep. So, and by the second, I think it breaks down to $100 a second or something like that. I mean, just imagine just counting money, counting Benjamin.
That's unbelievable.
Time on the field, who gets paid better, an NFL quarterback or Juan Soto?
Time on the field. Okay. Well,
I think interesting question. Yeah,
it's an interesting question.
Time on the field versus altogether Juan Soto contract. Yeah.
Now, are you talking time on the field as in the 4 seconds that the quarterback has the ball, or he's calling plays and everything else? Well, clearly baseball is more time on the field because you're playing 6 days a week in the summertime, and the season
and he's not a pitcher, he's an outfielder, so he's playing.
He might be a DH.
It's a whole nother. You're right.
And then how do you count it?
You're right.
But I mean, I'm sure you can break it down to at bat or per pitch scene.
DH is crazy. If it's a DH, so much idle time. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean,
Beast of the week though. Yeah. And he was just hanging out in the pool last night, hot tub, hanging out, because like you said, players aren't really too involved in the last stages of that stuff, right? It's all the agents and everything. Or is he still?
I mean, I found it interesting that it was a $51 million contract. Clearly, that seems to me that he wanted 50, and the Mets came over the top 51. I mean, at that point in time, I mean, an extra $1 million a year for 15 years is big money to most of the world, including myself. But at that point, isn't that couch cushion money?
No, I think what happened is they said the Yankees had that done like almost to the point last night. And I think maybe what you do is you take that Yankees contract, you go to the Mets, say, hey, this is what they're giving me. And then Steve Cohen, the owner, just goes, hey, a little bit, like you said, the couch money over the top, I guess. I don't know. It seems like it was
funny
very.
You're talking about $1 million or $15 million as couch cushion money,
but Soto,
it's kind of
like
like
it is
that.
for him.
At that point in time, I mean, really, what does it? Doesn't change any. I mean, look, honestly, 400 million and 700 million doesn't change your life. I don't think. I mean, it sounds like an extra 300 million is unbelievable, but at that point, it's all funny stuff, anyways. I mean, look, you're not going to wait to catch a Southwest flight ever. I mean,
it's got a jet. Jet's part of the contract, right? Come on, that's what all the soccer players try to add a private jet to all their contracts. So you never know. I have one last question from YouTube, Doc. Excuse me. Chris Olave, he's been out since week 9. Is there any chance that he can return? He's on IR, so it's been enough time. But they haven't opened the window yet.
That's interesting from his second concussion. Mm-hmm. I mean, hopefully he feels fine. Hopefully they're able to open up his practice window, and maybe they're just trying to be conservative and not. But hopefully he doesn't have lingering symptoms. We knew he'd be out a month at a minimum.
Because two, we weren't really worried about, because we knew that whole month he didn't really have issues. Olave, we haven't heard anything. So
yeah. I mean, I guess it's not impossible for him to have his practice window open, but have his practice window open to have who throw him the football?
Rattler or Jake Haener, whatever one they want. Both great options. But yeah, you're right. This is also the tank thing we talked about early in the podcast, right? Like, wait a little bit out. If they start losing a game or two, they're out of it, right? So why rush him back?
Yeah, and he's part of the long-term future, obviously, of the Saints.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Doc. Wrap it up. I have nothing else for you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully this format continues to work with some live questions. And
thank you for the questions. Like and subscribe as always. Yes.
I got through my phone issues of the weekend, and then Monday Night Football tonight.
There you go.
Dallas and Cincinnati should be an interesting matchup. Is Cincinnati eliminated or not yet?
Not 100% yet. They have like a screech chance. Let me see.
All but.
Yeah.
Dallas is not eliminated.
That's this winning streak they had. Yeah. You have 4-8. Next one is 8-5, 10-3. Cincinnati, if they lose tonight, I would say they're out of it. And then Dallas is 5-7. Washington's 8-5. So they have a fight, slim chance.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. We'll chat again tonight and this week as we head into week 15. Thanks for watching.